Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Hey everyone, hope you're having a great evening. For today's second talk, we have Rishabh Singh with us. He's going to be talking about burnout in software engineering. He has experienced the burnout himself, and hence he wishes to share some important pointers that would help you to avoid it early on in your career. With this, I'll hand it over to you, Rishabh.
Okay. Awesome. And my life.
Yep, you are.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Hey guys. Very good evening to all of you. Thank you so much for joining. First things first, I'd like to thank Hack, which is short for Hack Against COVID, and also CodeZone, the original organizers of Hack, and the organizers and I, all of us go way back. We have been in the same college, and it's a real pleasure to be here with these guys today and do a presentation with them. Also, I'll be judging the hackathon, so it's going to be pretty exciting because I've always been on the other side of the hackathons, which is the participants side of things. And you know, this is one of the first few times that I'm actually going to uh, judge a hackathon. So pretty excited for what's about to come. But for now, we'll focus on the presentation, which is burnout in software engineering. Right. Okay. Just give me a few seconds. All right. I need water. Perfect. Let's start. I'm not sure if you can see me. Hold on. I'm just gonna check if you can see me. Yeah, I think you can. Awesome. Okay, so we're going to talk about burnout in software engineering, a very, very important topic, a topic which is mostly ignored by everyone uh, who is in the software engineering field, simply because it's not relevant enough at the start of your career, right? It's something that you encounter later on in your career, and by the time you do, it's already too late. So essentially, it's one of those topics that very few people talk about when it comes to software engineering, right? And you'll almost find no college student talking about this. And that's why I like to talk about controversial issues which deserve a lot of attention, but quite amazingly they don't get any, right? And that's okay because as a student even I didn't give attention to burnout in software engineering myself, and as a result I have experienced burnout at least once. I'm not sure about the second time. I think the second time is right now because the pandemic has essentially fueled a lot of things, right? The pandemic has been acting like a catalyst to an already unhealthy developer lifestyle, and now the developers are uh, more unhealthy than ever, and essentially something that had to be changed a long back. That reaction has just been catalyzed, right? So um, that's why I feel more than ever the developers are at the risk of burnout. So, and I personally feel that I am going through my second burnout right now as we talk about this presentation. So that's why I think that gives you enough context as to why I'm particularly interested in this topic, why I chose this as a presentation for Hack, and how is it relevant to you as a coder, as a programmer, as a developer, as an indie product uh, maker. That will become relevant soon as we go through the presentation, and I would like to keep it really, really short, really, really simple, and I think it shouldn't take more than 15-20 minutes at max, that too. Um, so we'll keep it super simple and super short. I'll just quickly go over the presentation because I'm more interested in questions. So that's another thing that I'd like to tell you guys. That is, if you have questions, please write them down as soon as possible on the window that you see to your right on YouTube. Because, like I said, the points that I have showed here in the presentation today, they are more relevant to me because they come from personal experience and they might not be relevant to you. So how do we make this presentation relevant to you? How do we customize this presentation in a manner so that it makes sense to you, so that it adds value to your life? If we wish to do that, then you'd have to post your questions to the right side, and then I'll have a look and I'll try to answer all of your questions. So with that, let's just quickly jump into it, starting with an introduction of who am I. Um, Hi everyone, my name is Rishabh Singh. I like building impactful products. I also like drinking freshly brewed coffee while I'm doing that, while I'm building impactful products. I'm mildly annoying to work with in a team. So if you and I are in a team, I'd not be surprised if you are pissed off with me, or if you want to do things differently. That totally makes sense. I can be easily bribed with pizza and beer. So if you need an API build or probably a small service that you would like to get done ASAP, all I need is a pizza and a beer to go with it, and that's all. I practice music production and DJing just in case software development doesn't work out for me. So, I mean, this is the 21st century. We're in 2020 already. GPT-3 has been released, and developers are, at risk more than ever. So, it's nice to have a backup, right? In case software development doesn't work out for me, I'd like to have something on the side. So, um, that's, I think that gives you enough context about the presentation, about me. And with that, let's quickly get into it. So the plan for the presentation is very simple. We're going to talk about what is burnout, why should you care, how to recognize it, how to avoid it, the causes of burnout, and the steps to recover from it. Right. So we're going to give you a general idea of how a burnout looks. Right. So it's a huge paradigm. The burnout is, by the way, a huge paradigm, and a 15 to 20-minute talk is not going to do justice to the burnout in any way possible, right? So that's why I've kept the presentation very streamlined. I'm going to present you 5 points for each topic that is mentioned over here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You have 6 topics, and I'm going to present you with maximum 5 points maximum for each of the slides. But the problem is the burnout is a very general topic again, right? So a lot of points will not make sense to you from a software engineering perspective. So for the topics that need a bit more explanation about the software engineering side of it, for those slides, I've also added a software engineering perspective slide, which contains 3 more points so that, basically the idea is to give you guys a general understanding of all the topics that are mentioned, as well as a software engineering perspective of all the topics that are mentioned, right? So without further ado, let's get into it. What is burnout? It's pretty simple. It's a physical and mental collapse that is caused by overworking or stressing too much. What's important to understand is that it's a process and not an incident. What that means is that a series of events lead up to a burnout, and it's not something that happens like a snap, right? It's not like, ah, this is I've hit burnout. I didn't know where it come from, right? And basically, that is what happens in reality. You feel like it hit you out of nowhere, but that's not the reality. The reality is as simple as that. There were pointers, there were red flags, there were clues, but you simply ignored it. Why? Because we're humans, right? And we like to focus on the positive side of things, and um, we generally avoid things like red flags, and that happens everywhere. That happens. You avoid red flags in your personal life, in your relationships, and in your professional life as well, right? So it's a process. It's not an incident. It doesn't happen instantly. It A series of events lead up to a burnout. So you do a lot of things in the past that essentially just grows the graph over time, and before you know it, you've hit burnout, right? Um, and it is really hard to see it coming, right? Like I said, since you only focus on, as humans, we only focus on the positive side of things. It's very hard to see it coming. In my personal experience, I've never met a single person who has actually, who figured out that burnout was going to hit them. So whenever I talk to my peers about burnout, they all say, I don't know where it came from. It just happened so suddenly, right? So I think that is what a burnout is. That gives you enough idea about burnout. Why should you care? Okay, I understand what burnout is, but as a developer, why should I care? Pretty simple, because it happens to the rest of us. It is not dependent on your physical strongness or your mental strength. It's not dependent on any of these things, right? It can happen to the best of us. People uh, who seem like they'd never be tired of hustling from far, from an external perspective. It can happen to them as well, because That's the thing about burnout. It's a very human like quality, right? I think it's essentially there are parts of us which can all come together and produce a burnout as a net result. And that's why, since it's a human like quality, it can happen to the best of us, right? Yes, you can grow tolerance, you can grow resistance over time, but essentially the possibility is still there. It hurts your productivity. You would find yourself not being able to focus or not being able to productive. And I think we all like productivity, we all like the idea of productivity, right? People who are not productive, they like to feel that they were productive, right? And that's why productivity is very addicting. And that's why, by the virtue of the productivity being so addicting for every human being, it obviously makes sense to you, and that's why you should care, right? It's really hard to kick back from. Like, so if you ever hit burnout, it's very hard to kick back from it and get onto your normal life. You start despising what you love, right? So suddenly something that you'd kill for, something that you're happy to do for the rest of your life, something that moves you from inside, that exact thing doesn't make sense to you anymore. One day you wake up and you just start despising what you do. And that's why you should care, because no one wants to be in that position. Trust me, no one wants to be in that position. It becomes a part of your life. It slowly starts creeping in, from your professional life into your personal life, into your relationship. It's everywhere, right? Suddenly, it entered into your life professionally because burnout as a software engineer. Then suddenly it creeps in into your personal life. You feel like talking to friends and family is a waste of time. It goes into your relationships, right? So that's all. It finds an entry point, and then it starts expanding itself across your life, and essentially it becomes a part of your life. So it's sort of like a viral infection. Um, no one wants that, and that's why you should care. But these are the reasons why you should generally care. Why should you care? From a software engineering perspective, good question. Because most of your students, you're young and ambitious, you're exploring your options, right? Most of you are first, second, third, fourth year students, basically undergraduate students. Um, and even if you're not a student, and you're a professional, this is still relevant because you're still young and ambitious, you're still exploring your options, right? Um, Imagine when the moment you're trying to get your life together, and you're trying to move up the ladder of life, and you're exploring your options, you're having fun, but uh, you didn't care about burnout, and when it finally hits you, it's going to destroy all of these things, right? Suddenly you're not ambitious anymore because it takes that away from you. Why is being young relevant? Being young is relevant because being young means you have a lot of time which you can use to generate a lot of output for yourself in the longer run. And if you're going through a burnout, if you hit a burnout, then your time gets wasted, and your 20 to 30 is the most important decade of your life. Experiencing a burnout here can easily take 6 months to 2 years of your life, right? And this is just a average range. It's totally up to you. A lot of people take a lot of time to recover from burnouts. It has taken people years. Um, People have been, they have taken a separate route altogether, and that's when they realize that they suddenly are open to what they were doing previously, right? So it's that bad. And obviously when you're young, you wouldn't want this because it wastes a lot of time, right? So that's why you should care as a software engineer, and generally as well. How to recognize it? um, Lack of motivation and passion. You wake up one day and suddenly you don't feel motivated, you don't feel passionate for the things that you used to do in your day-to-day lives. Lack of drive and zeal. Suddenly, you don't have that push from inside you, that excitement when you wake up in the morning, that adrenaline rush which used to be there before, right? Suddenly, all of that is missing. You have a never-ending desire to keep contributing. Whenever you wake up, you just feel like you have to work on something, you have to keep contributing, you have to do something, you have to do your part in the world by doing whatever that is up to you, right? But the point is that you always feel like you have to just go ahead and contribute, right? You feel like making a difference all the time. You feel as if you should work on this, you should solve societal issues, you should solve technical issues, you should solve communicable issues, right? Whatever. Like there's so many areas, and just you just feel like making a product all the time, just like creating something, a system. And it could be anything. The point being that you just feel like making a difference all the time, right? Things that matter feel like a waste of time to you, right? So things that matter, for example, sleeping, working out, talking to friends and family, taking your dog out for a walk, talking to your girlfriend, grabbing lunch or dinner with your best friends, watching Netflix. It could be any of these things, right? These are also important. All of these things. They're important to you as an individual, and all of these things will feel like a waste of time to you. And when any of these things are happening to you, you can suspect that you might be moving towards burnout, or you're just a few steps away from hitting burnout, or that you've already hit burnout, but it's in the first stage. So still enough time to stop it, right? So look out for these pointers. These are very important. Keep taking notes, by the way. If you feel anything is important, keep taking notes. And you never know what is going to be helpful at what point of time. So that is how you recognize burnout symptoms. And how to recognize burnout symptoms from a software engineering perspective. The projects don't seem interesting to you anymore. The projects that you started, the projects that you had in your head that you wanted to do at a different time later in the future, it doesn't seem interesting anymore, right? Suddenly you just lose all the interest in it. um, Coding, which is what you used to love, it suddenly feels empty, right? Suddenly you just don't like to code, and you just sit in front of your computer and you're looking at the screen, and you have your IDE opened up in front of you, but you know, uh, nothing is giving you that first. Nothing is motivating you to take that first step to write the first piece of code, right? Um, and career choice, existentialism, right? So it's pretty simple. You start questioning, you start having second thoughts about your career. You start thinking if coding is even worth it. Is software engineering, software development a good field to be in or not? Have you made the right choices in your career? Should you still think about something else while you still have the time, right? So all that starts kicking in, right? So this is, if you get one or more of these from a software engineering perspective, please understand that these are the early stage symptoms of burnout. How to avoid burnout? Invest in yourself. Very, very simple. Do things that are very basic and are almost common sense, but very surprisingly, it's super uncommon, right? So all of these things that are super obvious are actually the things that will help you the most. The problem is, since you don't give it enough thinking, since all of us have trivialized a topic like burnout as something which is simply theoretical and doesn't exist in real life. That's why these things don't make sense to you, right? That's why you feel these are too obvious. How would they help me? But in reality, these are the only things that are going to help you. So invest in yourself. Exercise and workout, very, very important. This is what keeps you pumped up. This is what keeps the blood flow circulating inside your body. This is what keeps you energized in the longer run. Eat right and eat healthy. Of course, this I think this is pretty much self-explanatory. As a software engineer, I know how much the amount of junk food that the developers. And I'm not trying to generalize it. It's just an observation, right? If the people in your dev circle are eating right and eating healthy, that's great. I'm not trying to generalize it. I'm just saying, in my experience, I've seen, because I do it myself. I have had so much junk food in the past 4 years because we're young. Who cares? Um, so yeah, that's the thing. Eat right and eat healthy. Very, very important. Celebrate small milestones. Something which I've seen almost no one do at this point in life. They'll deploy an API. They'll deploy a small website, a portfolio website, um, or a small project which they built up over the weekend. And they'd feel as if this is not enough. They have to do more. They have to do bigger things. And what happens essentially is that they end up undermining themselves. They start undermining their own confidence, their capability as a human being, and that leads to burnout in the longer run, right? Because you're not appreciating yourself, and over time you'll become highly critical of everything that you do, highly critical of every move that you make personally and professionally. and it kills you from inside. It makes you anxious. It brings a whole other whole paradigm of mental issues that you'd have to tackle either instantly or either when you're trying to sleep at night, right? But the problem is you can't hide from it. You have to face your demons at one point or the other. And I find it easier if I just celebrate my small milestones. So celebrating my small milestones is as simple as grabbing a beer whenever I deploy an API, or watching another episode of Netflix as soon as I fix that bug which had been bothering me for days, right? Or take my family out to dinner. Whatever it could, the way of celebration is arbitrary and materialistic. That's up to you, right? The point is that you have to celebrate it. It gives you more confidence. It and you start appreciating yourself, and that allows you to keep your mental sanity in the place. That's why it's important. Talk to your friends and family. I can't stress it enough. Something that is ignored. Take out time, from your busy schedule, and talk to your friends and family. Um, Amidst the pandemic, talking to your friends and family, uh, that has been going down with time, right? Initially, we used to talk a lot. Now we're just four people in four different rooms, and we only see each other by that when we're waking up in the morning, or either we're going to sleep at night, right? So make sure you interact with people, right? Humans are social creatures, so we need that social interaction to keep us in the game. That's why talking is really important. And how to avoid it from a software engineering perspective. Take regular breaks when you're working. So what I do is that I have Alexa, so I just ask Alexa to put a timer every 45 minutes, and after every 45 minutes, I sort of get up and do some stretching, some push-ups. Pull-ups are not my thing, and because I eat a lot. So basically, it doesn't matter, right? You just have to move your muscles, move those bones inside the body, uh, do some, lubricate those joints, because sitting for too long is highly unhealthy. You guys know that already, right? So taking regular breaks is very, very important. Ignore toxic productivity, right? So you'd see these articles on the internet that would ask you to follow a bunch of steps, a bunch of advices in order to maximize your productivity, right? Or you'd have four or five productivity apps installed on your phone. You'd have a productivity tracker installed in your desktop. I have never believed in these things. I feel productivity is a very arbitrary, very abstract uh, you know topic, right? And it's highly subjective as well. And the moment you try to put something as dynamic, as subjective into sort of a formula, that's where things go wrong, right? So don't try to quantify or measure productivity. It wasn't supposed to be measured. It was just an arbitrary concept, right? But the moment we start measuring it, that's when everything goes southways. So don't ignore toxic productivity, ignore these articles, ignore these applications and desktop. That's my personal advice. Of course, you don't have to follow it. It just works out best for me, that I have found. But you can experiment and see what works out best for you, right? But these articles, right, which tell you wake up in the morning, drink your coffee twice a day, and get that exercise done before you start coding. All of this is fine, but the moment you start, doing this in a schedule, in a strict schedule, right, that's when it goes sideways, because you have conditioned your head to think that if I follow this particular article, I'll be productive. And then when you don't, at the end of the day, it kills you from inside, right? And you just sort of think, why isn't it happening? I'm giving it my best. Am I not enough? Am I not doing enough? And then you start pushing yourself way too much, and that's unhealthy in the longer run, right? Like I said, a lot of these points, by the way, I realize are repetitive, but I think you guys are able to join the dots, and it's all coming together and it's making sense, because I'm trying really hard uh, to do that, right? Ensure that there is no cultural mismatch, right? So when you started programming, when you started coding, when you started taking on clients and projects, I'm sure a lot of you had a talk with yourself wherein you decided that this is the kind of developer that I want to become. This is the kind of person that I'll become as a software engineer. I will ignore clients like these. I will respect clients like these. I will never work overtime. I will never work for free. Um, right? XYZ, a lot of lists, basically a huge list of a lot of points, right? Um, So that list, that conversation that you had before you started anything, that is your culture. That is regarded as the culture that you have as a programmer. So make sure that there is no culture mismatch. The moment you start working in a culture mismatch environment simply because the pay was too high, the clients were international, or for any of these arbitrary reasons, that's when your burnout rate gets multiplied, right? Because you made some promises to yourself, you decided to culture for yourself, and you were subconsciously and consciously, completely into that culture. And now you've done a complete culture mismatch simply because the pay was too high, or the clients were international, or whatever reasons, right? Very materialistic reasons. Um, Make sure there's no culture mismatch. If there is, um, prefer leaving your company. I mean, I'm no one to say that you should leave your company. Everyone has different circumstances, different position that there are in life, right? I'm just telling you what I do if there's a culture mismatch. If the company that I'm working with doesn't align with the values that I have as a person, I'd prefer leaving it, right? Simply for my mental sanity, and of course for to ensure that there's no culture mismatch. The causes of burnout, the hustle culture. And this hustle culture is simply evoked by a lot of social media, which is Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, wherein you see a lot of popular programmers, um, you see a lot of influencers, right, and a lot of people who push you for more productivity, right? There are a lot of people, lots and lots of people like that. I mean, um, so okay, I don't want to take any names, but if you guys are on as a programmer, if you are on LinkedIn, if you are on Instagram, uh, Twitter, you'd know that there are people who exist, right? And they promote a hustle culture. The hustle culture meaning, um, push yourself, go ahead and do it, burn the midnight oil, um, travel overnight, travel to different cities and countries, explore your horizons, right? And yeah, things stuff like that, things like that. I'm sure that makes sense to you guys, right? So that is essentially known as hustle culture. And hustle culture uh, was very cool initially, especially in 2016 to 2018. But then the adverse health effects of the hustle culture, they started becoming super relevant, right? They started coming and started staring people in the face, and that's when they realized, okay, this is something that we didn't predict, right? That's when people realize that this is actually a toxic culture, and this promotes people uh, to not sleep at night, just because not sleeping at night is a symbol of being a hustler, right? I mean, what does that even mean? um, and quite um, I mean, it's a bit awkward, and also ironical, because I believed in hustle culture myself. I believe that you should burn the midnight oil. I used to, travel across cities to attend hackathons, even when I didn't have to, even when I, because sometimes it was physically impossible for me to be somewhere, and there were going to be a lot of complications. But I still chose the other way, the difficult way, just because it sounds more like a hustler's way, something that is going to be a part of a success story one day, right? And that's why I used to do these things. And then the health effect was pretty adverse, and that's when I understood that this is a really really toxic culture. And another part of the hustle culture is promoting jobs at fan, right, which is Facebook, Amazon, Apple, Netflix, Google, right? People think that uh, your value as a software engineer is only defined if you work at the fan companies, which is not at all true. That is, it's completely untrue. Um, in fact, I don't care. You could work at a small startup in a small city in a small country, and you could also make you know somewhere around 20,000, 15,000 rupees. But it doesn't matter. So what I'm trying to say is that it's all of these reasons are very very materialistic. At the end of the day, if you're happy, that's what matters, right? So ignore the hustle culture. Please remove it. If you're following it, this would be a good time to stop. Also, pandemic has also enforced the hustle culture, wherein a lot of posts, they advise you, like there has been this post, I'm sure you guys must have seen it, that if you're not coming out of this pandemic with new skill set, with new uh, as an improved person, as a better version of yourself, then then you're a waste. or your whole life you just made excuses, right? That is exactly what hustle culture is. They just promote that shit. Sorry for the language. You don't have to get caught up in all that, right? It's pretty toxic. Please ignore it. Materialistic expectations, like I said, money, status, name of the company, type of city that you're living in, type of villa that you have, type of house that you're living in, uh, the parties that you throw, the pubs that you drink at, all of these things, right? Super materialistic. And it's cool because our society is a status-driven society, right? That's why it's cool, and that's why you feel like you have to live up to these expectations. You feel like you have to make a lot of money. You have to work at fans. You have to work. You have to throw costly parties. You have to, get a good car or a big house, while in reality, none of this matters, right? But in an attempt to meet these materialistic expectations, you push yourself a bit too much physically and mentally, and that results in a burnout. Monotonous schedules, lack of social interaction, little to no attention to self, right? So monotonous schedules could be as simple as something that you do every day from like 9 to 5 jobs. But I'm also seeing people being successful at 9 to 5 jobs for over 30, 35 years. My father being a very good example of it. My father has been working in the same company for 25 years, and he has a very monotonous schedule. Um, but he has never experienced burnout. Like, at least I've never seen him experiencing burnout in my personal experience. I've never seen him, right? And whenever I speak to him about burnout, and I say, Dad, how is it possible that you do such a monotonous schedule and still, you're not hitting burnout? He just tells me it's because I enjoy what I do. I love what I do, and my culture and my values, they go hand in hand with what I do at work, right? So I think with this point, monotonous schedule, there's a catch. There's no problem in having monotonous schedules if you really love what you do, if you believe in what you do, if you feel like you're making a difference, and if your culture and your values go hand in hand with what you do day to day. That's it. Monotonous schedules can be countered that way. But if you are stuck in the clock doing things that you don't like for a company that has a different culture or value range other than yours, um, you're going to face burnout pretty soon. Lack of social interaction, I've covered it in the past. You need to talk to people, right? Little to no attention to self. Workout seems like a time waste to you, right? Watching a movie feel like a time waste to you just because you feel like you're supposed to work, you're supposed to make a difference. Vacations don't make sense to you, and even if you take vacations, you somehow feel um, while you're on the vacation, you're thinking about all the work that you have to do when you finish your vacation, right? Which basically defeats the purpose of vacation, right? So you have to give attention to yourself. These are the causes of burnouts. Now we'll look at the causes of burnouts from a software engineering perspective. I've covered this already: culture mismatch, inconsistent code practice. So at a lot of places, companies don't have their coding practices figured out, right? They use a different convention for the front end, a totally different convention for the back end. Their API documentation follows another alien, practice, code practice uh, as well. And all of these things combined, just gives birth to a really inconsistent work culture. And the more time that you spend in this work culture, the more energy you spend mentally, right? And if you really think about it, coding is a very high functioning job, right? You're actually thinking a lot of things at the same time, and it drains you after a point, right? Essentially, mental draining is one of the biggest symptom of, biggest outcome of burnout, right? So inconsistent coding practice is something that you should avoid at work, right? And if it's there, then figure it out. There are a lot of ways to figure it out. Uh, Leaving is one of them. Uh, I think that's the simplest, but there are other ways to figure it out as well. Also, imposter syndrome, right? You feel whatever that you have done or achieved, that is super simple. Anyone else can do it, and you feel like a cheat. You feel as if you've cheated everyone else, right? And that's number one cause of burnout. I mean, number one, as in one of the most important ones. Um, and imposter syndrome can be quickly avoided by that point that I mentioned, that is celebrating your small milestones, right? That can greatly reduce the possibility of an imposter syndrome. But it is a WHO recognized mental illness as well. I mean, sometimes there's a cure for it, and the only thing that you can do is go through therapy. So if you feel that you have imposter syndrome, don't shy out on the therapy. Your mental health is really really important. Um, you know, invest in a good psychiatrist, take some time off, and figure it out. That is going to be helpful in the longer run for you. Now, we're at the final slide of the presentation, the steps to recover. So if you have already hit burnout, if you feel that all of the points that I mentioned in the previous slides, you've already done that, and you're going through most of them, and you experienced one or more of them in the past, and you highly suspect that you're going through burnout right now, these are some steps that you can take to quickly recover from it. The time frame, like I said, on average is 6 months to 2 years. But it's different for different people, and if you follow these steps and sort of make your own process, you can actually recover quickly. So I had, just on a side note, I experienced burnout in my third year, sixth semester, where I ended up doing nothing for 6 months, right? But the problem is, all I did was watch Netflix, eat junk food, chill out with friends, watch movies, and that's all. That's basically it. That's exactly what I did for the next 6 months when I was going through workout. No coding, no hackathons, nothing at all. No side projects, no side hustles. Everything came to a stop. But the problem is, for the next 6 months, when I was just having the time of my life, even then I felt guilty, right? And that's what burnout does to you. The things that you're supposed to enjoy, like watching a movie, like going out with friends, eating good food, you start feeling guilty while doing those things, right? And that's not how you're supposed to feel as a human. So that's why, and it took me 6 months, and I might be going through another burnout right now because of the pandemic. Not sure. I'm still speculating, but yeah, I'll keep you updated on that. Now, the steps to recover. Understand that you're not alone. This is a very regular, very common phenomenon. A lot of people face it. The person who's talking to you right now about this particular phenomenon has gone through it as well in the past, right? And at that point of time, understanding and knowing that I'm not the only person who's going through this. There are like thousands of people who are going through the same phenomenon at the same time that you're going through. That helps, right? So understand that you're not alone, and there are communities who would love to step forward to your aid. Take a break and do nothing. So when if you feel that you are going through a burnout, stop everything. Come to an instant halt. Right? Sometimes the best way of quitting something is cold turkey. Right? So I think take the cold turkey approach. Just stop everything instantly. If you were working on a side project, stop it. If you were creating something new, anything, right? Whatever point uh, in your life you were at with software engineering, just stop and take a break, chill out, rest a lot, eat healthy, work out, focus on important things in life, right? And engage with your hobbies, right? And that's during my uh, burnout period, I discovered that I loved music production and also DJing, right? Something that I had not spent, something, the music production and DJing, right? These areas I didn't even give them enough attention as a hobby, right? Um, and when I was going through my burnout, that's when I decided to engage more with my hobbies, and that's when I discovered that I actually have a spark for music production and DJing, right? So similarly, when if you're going through big burnout, you can also engage with your own hobbies, discover your hobbies, or engage with the ones that you left. Discover yourself, introspect within yourself, right? Find out new qualities, new traits about yourself. Lie down on the bed, look at the ceiling for a few hours while thinking some random thing about the universe, about the earth, about humans, about species, blah, 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 anything, right? That's called discovering yourself. You figure out a thought process, you figure out things that you didn't know about yourself. It gives you a perspective, it improves you, it restores your faith in yourself as a human. So that's important. You should definitely do that. And once you do start getting back on the horse, start really slow and limit your hours. So if you start working, you start coding again, then limit your hours, that you would not do it for more than 1 hour every day. And then do it for 1 week, and then slowly increase the limit to a comfortable limit, but not the burnout limit, right? So make sure that balance is strikingly perfect, and it's different for different people. 4 to 5 hours is the thing for me, and you can find your own when you're discovering yourself, right? So these are the steps to recover. Now, the steps to recover from a software engineering perspective: change your coding environment. If you work at a particular table, every time you code, move your table to a different room or go to a different room altogether, or start coding in your balcony, start coding on the roof, start coding on the stairs and on the sofa. Basically, just change your environment, right? Because the moment you sit at a place where you experience burnout, uh, while sitting at the same place, the moment you sit on that same place again, it just, brings back the old memories subconsciously, and your mind sort of gets stuck in that subconscious loop again. You have to break out of it, by the way, right? So that's why changing your environment where you code, that helps a lot. Do things that move you, right? Things that essentially, defines you as a human. I mean, all of us, all of the programmers, all of the coders, all of the people that we know, um, they're they're all humans, right? They are more than programmers. They're more than coders. Coding and programming, this is a part of their life, right? But outside coding and programming, there's a whole other paradigm, whole other discovery area that also defines them. So figure that out. Figure out things that also move you apart from the thing that you do for a living, right? Change your language and your stack. I found it this particularly useful. I have coded in Java for the past 4 years, I guess, and then shifting my stack from Java to Golang or JavaScript, right? Also changing my database from SQL to MongoDB, right? All of these things, they helped me a lot because suddenly I started feeling that day one curiosity of learning a new stack, learning a new language, right? But when you figure out a language from A to Z, you become an expert in it, yes, but it loses that excitement, right? Because you know that there's nothing else that you can learn in it. You know that there's literally everything inside it, and you know it already, right? So when you go ahead with a new stack, a new language, it's the new API documentation, the new landing page, the new way of doing things, right? Something that fulfills the curiosity in you as a human being, right? And also as a programmer. So I found that very, very helpful. So do that. That is also a great thing that you can try. I guess that's pretty much it, guys. Thank you so much for joining. And if you'd like to connect with me in any of these, sorry, outside the hackathon, personally, sorry, I lost my train of thought over there for a second. Yeah, so if you'd like to connect with me personally on any of the social media, you can go through any of these links. Find me by my username or by the URL, and let's catch up over there and talk about burnouts or software engineering or life in general, right? So thank you so much, guys, for joining. I know I planned on taking 15-20 minutes. I took a lot of time. But essentially, it's all for the greater good. This is all going to help you a lot. And I guess you all of you are pretty young. And like I said, 20 to 30 is the most important decade in your life. Most important decade because in this decade you have a lot of time, you have a lot of energy, and you also have a lot of money, dependent on how good you utilize the other two, the latter two qualities. So traits. So you have a lot of time and you have a lot of energy. If you utilize it well, uh, it will result in a lot of money, right? And that happens in this particular decade. After 30s, things starts moving apart. That's why it's very, very important to not run into a burnout at this stage. Um, I guess I'm pretty much done. Whatever I told to you guys in my presentation, it covers everything from a general perspective and also from a software engineering perspective. I'm sure you guys have taken notes. If yes, please follow them religiously. And if you take good care of yourself and you invest in yourself, you'd never find yourself even remotely concerned about burnout. So yeah, that's it. Thank you so much, guys. Let's connect offline for any other questions that you might have. And also, I'm super excited for what you guys will build in Hack. I'm also going to judge the hackathons, so super excited to see what all lies ahead. Like I said, I've always been on the participants side of hackathons. So as a participant, uh, I have no idea what you guys must be going through right now because this is a virtual hackathon. I have never done a virtual hackathon in my life, so it is it's going to be challenging, and I'm super excited to see what you guys build. Thank you so much, guys. And Sagar, you can probably step back in to close the stream. Or okay, so one second. I think we were going to take questions as well, right?
Hmm.
We're going to take questions as well. One second. Let me see if there are any questions. Um, okay, no questions. Not a problem. I figured most of you would like to connect with me offline. That's okay. Sagar, I think I'm pretty much done. If you have any other follow-up questions for me, we'd love to take that.
Nope, that's it. The participants who want to talk to Rishabh can always hit him up on the Discord server. And Rishabh, thank you for that talk. A lot of people needed to hear that for sure. So yeah,
Yes, absolutely.
thank you guys for tuning in. We'll see you on the next talk. Bye bye.
All right. Bye, guys. Good evening.